The night my phone buzzed, the air in my apartment felt heavy, as if the walls themselves held their breath. I'd settled into the frayed armchair by the window, watching distant traffic halos blur through condensation, when the vibration in my hand felt wrong, too insistent, too urgent. The screen lit up with a name I had erased from my contacts 10 years ago. Kirill, my Kirill. He'd died in that car crash the night everything changed. My thumb trembled as I opened the message. A single word, help, sent at 23:17, the exact time his ambulance doors slammed shut and the world went black. A cold wave swept up my spine, and I could almost taste the metal tang of old blood in the stale apartment air. My heart pounded against rib bones like a frantic drummer, and I realized I'd been holding my breath. The message waited, unread beyond that one word, the screen's blue glow carving deep shadows under my eyes. Even the hum of the refrigerator fell silent, as though the room feared to intrude. I tapped Kirill's name again. No profile picture, just a flicker of static where his smiling face once was. I reread help, tasting each letter on my tongue, wondering if it was proof of some glitch or something far more sinister. Memories stabbed at me, his laughter echoing in empty corridors, his promise to always call when I was lonely, his last goodbye lost in a tangle of twisted metal and sirens. I shoved the armchair back and stood, the floorboards groaning under a weight I couldn't see. My goal crystallized in that hollow stillness. I had to answer him. I had to find out what he needed, and how someone who should be beyond reach was calling me from the grave. My thumb hovered over the screen as I stared at Kirill's name, the apartment's sickly yellow light twisting the shadows into silent witnesses. I swiped to call him, my heart hammering so hard I feared it would crack my ribs. The dial tone droned, liquefied in my ears, then a crackle of static that bled into something achingly familiar. A soft whimper, a stifled sob. My breath caught. "Kirill?" I whispered. The line went dead. Silence slammed into me, cold and unrelenting, like water poured over bare skin. My reflection in the dark window looked back hollow-eyed. Then the phone vibrated again. I unlocked it with trembling fingers. A new message. A blurred photograph of the narrow alley behind St. Mary's Hospital, where we'd first met as interns. The rain-slick cobblestones glistened like spilled mercury. And in the corner, faint in the darkness, I saw him, Kirill, leaning against the brick wall, head bowed, as if waiting. A geotag blinked beneath. St. Mary's Alley. My pulse roared in my temples. I could almost smell the hospital's antiseptic mingled with wet soil, the memory rolling back like a tide. My coat lay draped over the armchair, its collar stiff with disuse. The floorboards sighed as I stood, each groan echoing my racing thoughts. My apartment felt suddenly oppressive. Walls closing in, the air stale with fear and expectation. I locked the door behind me, the metal latch clicking like a judge's gavel. Outside, the night air was sharp with ozone, and the street lamps flickered through the mist, casting long, wavering fingers across the pavement. Rain pattered on the hood of my coat, each drop a tiny, urgent heartbeat. I had to go. There was no turning back. With every step toward the hospital, my past and present collided in a cascade of memory and dread. What had I expected? A trick of the mind, or something more terrible? An echo of a man who refused to let me forget. The alley stretched before me, dark and silent, and I plunged into it, driven by a promise I couldn't yet understand, but couldn't ignore. The alley reeked of damp brick and rotting leaves, the scent so thick it clung to my throat and made each breath taste foul. My shoes splashed in shallow puddles, cold rainwater seeping through the soles, and with every step, the uneven cobblestones groaned underfoot, as if resentful of my intrusion. The faint outline of Kirill's shape shimmered at the far end, an impossible silhouette swaying against the sickly glow of a lone lamp. I froze, heart hammering, as the shape raised a skeletal hand in a beckoning gesture. My phone buzzed in my pocket, and I pulled it out with shaking fingers. A new message, an audio clip labeled "Listen." I hit play. At first, there was nothing but static, and then, so close I felt it in my bones, Kirill's voice. "I'm here, but not where you think." The tone was hollow, stretched thin, as though his words were being pulled from somewhere beyond the grave. The clip ended with a single jagged breath that echoed in my eardrums long after the silence returned. I swallowed hard, an icy knot tightening in my gut. The silhouette began to drift backward, disappearing into darkness beneath a rusted gate marked "Authorized Personnel Only." My pulse thundered as I edged forward. Beyond the gate, a narrow staircase descended, its railing slick with condensation. Every instinct screamed to turn back, to run from this unfolding nightmare, but I pressed on. At the base of the steps, the air shifted, stale, sulfurous, carrying the metallic tang of blood that wasn't there. My phone vibrated again. A text. "Down here." No signature. My breath caught in my chest. The gate slammed shut above me. There was no escape. The staircase ended in a low-ceilinged corridor lined with aged steel lockers, their paint peeling in jagged strips like melting wax. The air was colder here, so cold it burned my lungs. My breath came in white puffs that faded before they hit the rust-spotted floor. Above me, one flickering fluorescent tube buzzed, casting sickly, uneven light and sending my own shadow scattering across the walls in frantic, twitching bursts. I slipped my phone from my pocket. No new messages, just Kirill's name staring back at me among the unread texts. My fingers hovered over the screen. Then I tapped the chat. A string of numbers appeared: 1207, 1215, 1223, and finally 1232. Beneath them, coordinates. A sudden scuff behind me made my hair prickle. I whirled, phone raised like a talisman, but saw only the end of the corridor slipping into darkness. I swallowed hard, tasting something acrid on my tongue. The metallic echo of my footsteps answered as I followed the numbers painted in fading stencils on the floor. Each step a countdown. At 1232, the lockers gave way to a heavy door stamped with an unfamiliar emblem, a pair of intertwined serpents. My phone vibrated. A text. "Open it!" My heart hammered in my throat. I pressed my palm to the cold metal. The door swung inward with a groan that felt alive, as if it had slept for decades, and only now awoke. Behind it lay a room bare of furniture, with a single window set high and barred. The glass was smeared with grime. Beyond it, I could see nothing but darkness. In the center, a desk draped in a threadbare cloth. On the desk, an old cell phone, Kirill's phone, its screen cracked, lying face up. Behind the desk, a tall figure stood, head tilted downward. I stepped forward. Each footfall echoed like a tolling bell. "Why are you here?" The voice was low, my own voice. I froze. The figure lifted its head. It was me. Pale, drawn, eyes haunted by something ancient and sorrowful. My double's lips curled in a sad smile. The phone on the desk buzzed, and a cracked ringtone, our song, spilled into the cold air. My reflection held out a trembling hand. I realized with a jolt. To save Kirill, I'd have to face the part of myself I'd buried, the guilt I'd locked away, the stakes crystallized. This was my point of no return. Whatever waited beyond this mirror of flesh and bone would change me forever. I inhaled the bitter, electric scent of revelation and stepped across the threshold. I stepped into the room, the floorboards beneath my boots groaning like old bones, and the air closed in around me, heavy with the scent of damp metal and rain. My double stood motionless by the desk. the cracked phone's screen pulsing with a pale blue glow that illuminated his hollow eyes. I felt the hairs on my neck rise as I swallowed, my voice rasping, "Who are you?" He tilted his head, and his reflection wavered. His face stretched, then snapped back as though seen through rippling water. He raised his hand, but it trembled. And when he spoke, his voice fractured and layered, a chorus of my own regrets. "I am what you left behind." A sudden draft swept the room, rattling the barred window and carrying the soft patter of rain against glass. I recognized that breathy echo, Kirill's final gasp, the moment before everything went dark. My chest tightened. The double lifted the battered phone from the desk and held it out. On its cracked display, a message scrolled, "Remember." I steadied my trembling fingers, took the phone, and felt a shock of static surge through me, as if the world had split open. Images flashed, Kirill laughing beneath Christmas lights, my arm pulling away as I fled that hospital hallway in panic, the ambulance doors slamming shut. Guilt blinded me with its weight. My reflection's lips quivered. "You forgot me," it whispered, then blurred into Kirill's face, eyes pleading. The room spun, and I staggered, clutching the phone like a lifeline. The stakes pressed in. If I denied what happened, Kirill would remain trapped in that echo, forever calling out for salvation. But if I faced my failure, my need to move on without him, could I resurrect a memory powerful enough to bridge life and death? My heart thundered. There was no turning back. I lifted my head, breath swirling in icy clouds, and spoke the only name I could. "Kirill, I remember." I pressed the cracked phone against my chest, feeling its jagged edges bite through my coat as the words, "I remember," faded from the screen into darkness. The double, my own reflection distorted by guilt, trembled, shoulders slackening, as though I'd exhaled centuries of borrowed breath. The single-barred window rattled, and a hush fell so deep I could hear the pulse in my temples. Then, beneath the hum of the fluorescent tube, a new sound, soft, insistent tapping, like fingernails skimming the underside of the desk. I knelt and saw, beneath the threadbare cloth, an old journal bound in cracked leather. Its pages flickered open to a blank sheet. Then words bled upward in ink, as if written by unseen hands. "Remember me." A shiver rode my spine as the room's temperature plummeted. My breath billowed around me in ghostly clouds. I traced the letters with a fingertip that went numb at contact. My vision blurred, merging the journal's command with the echo of Kirill's voice in my mind. "Help me find the truth." Truth. The ache of the word pressed on me. Memory warped by pain, promises unkept, a life unlived. I let my memories flow. Late-night coffee in the on-call room, Kirill's shaky hand refusing to let go as the crash screamed closer. My own retreat into sleep to forget. Tears stung my eyes and blurred the dim light. I whispered aloud each moment I'd buried, each apology I never voiced, and felt the journal grow warm beneath my palm, the sheets curling as though breathing. Behind me, the door creaked. I rose unsteadily, clutching the journal. My double stood in the gloom, pale lips trembling. My steps were steady now, determined. I met my reflection's eyes and nodded. Words escaped in a breathless rush. "I'm sorry, Kirill. I'm here." The double's form flickered, dissolving into the ragged edges of the journal's pages, which snapped shut with a whisper of old leather. Silence fell, broken only by the slow drip of water from a rusted pipe overhead. I sank to the floor, the journal in my lap, and opened it once more. The blank pages remained empty, but in my mind, Kirill's face was vivid, alive with gratitude. A warmth spread through the room as the fluorescent tube steadied, its light smoothing from harsh strobing into a constant glow. My goal had shifted, no longer merely to chase an impossible signal from the dead. I understood that memory itself could bind and release. I tucked the journal into my coat, the leather soft against my side, and climbed the stairs toward the night above. Every step felt lighter, as if I carried hope instead of guilt. The barred window gave way to dripping rain and distant traffic hum, and I realized I would never be the same. The truth I found in those pages would guide me home and beyond. Thank you for joining me in this journey. If you felt the chill of these whispers, please like this video and subscribe to WhisperTales for more nightly escapes into anxious calm. The city air hit me like a cold wave when I burst through the exit door. Rain-soaked and trembling, the journal pressed to my heart like a sacred relic. Streetlights danced off puddles, and the distant hum of traffic felt like a distant heartbeat compared to the roar of life surging in my veins. I paused on the sidewalk, breath coming in sharp, stinging bursts, and looked up at the sky, where clouds parted just enough for a sliver of moonlight to touch my face. In that glow, I felt something shift deep inside me. The crushing weight of guilt had lifted, replaced by a fragile thread of peace. I opened the journal and ran my finger over its supple leather cover, remembering how it had grown warm when I bared my soul. Memory, I realized, was not a prison, but a bridge, one that could carry us across the impossible distance between life and death. In losing Kirill, I had lost a piece of myself, but in remembering him fully, his laughter, his dreams, his pain, I reclaimed that piece and healed a wound I'd thought permanent. As I turned the final page, it was blank once more, but I no longer needed words to feel his presence. The world around me felt sharper, richer. The scent of wet asphalt, the distant murmur of late-night traffic, the promise of dawn yet to come. I slipped the journal into my coat and walked into the empty street, ready to carry forward the memories I almost lost. If the echoes of this story stirred something in you, please give this video a like and subscribe to WhisperTales, your nightly escape into anxious calm.